Now, people may not be aware, for example, that within the European Union, we have the European Commission wanting to extend what's called the EURES scheme. That's EURES. Now, that's a European employment portal where you can view a considerable number of European jobs online, and it's a service that seeks to place workers in jobs across the EU. Now, as I see it, the European Commission is trying to influence European job seekers to look at Britain, as this country has one of the lower joblessness rates compared to other European countries. Now, many would see that as a useful resource, but if UK employers are seeking via this service lower skilled workers from within the EU instead of seeking people from the UK, then that puts pressure on the jobs market here, and it makes it harder for people living here in the UK. And we have to acknowledge this and ensure we give support to those in this country seeking work. So maybe Nigel was referring to that situation, the influence.
Well, an hour ago on the programme.
Elsewhere on the campaign trail today, Greg Judge, the Liberal Democrat parliamentary candidate for Coventry South, has been trying to woo voters in his constituency. He joins us in the studio this afternoon. Greg, nice to see you.
Evening, Phil.
Thanks very much indeed for coming in person. His opponent in Coventry South for UKIP is Mark Taylor. Mark, good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon, Phil and Greg.
Thanks for joining us both to talk about your respective manifesto launches today.
It's really a manifesto actually pulling up the drawbridge, isn't it? Is it a manifesto of the home counties? Okay,
well, let's allow Mark Taylor to respond to that. Are you pulling up the drawbridge, Mark?
No, this is not pulling up the drawbridge. Immigrants contribute to this country. Fact. They do. They contribute to this city. Fact. What we just need is limited immigration. That's not to say that we don't want people bringing in their skills.
Avtar Taggar, the UKIP candidate, what are your thoughts? Again, more of our money back into our area, back into Coventry.
Well, there's a very simple solution. Stop sending money to the EU. I mean, you've had panellists on here talk about austerity. Yes, there has been austerity for national governments and local governments, but our contribution to the EU over the lifetime of this government, over the last 4 or 5 years, has trebled. We're now paying about 12 billion a year to them.
And how much do we get back?
We pay about 20 billion, and we get maybe 8 billion back.
Right, so there's a deficit of about 12 billion.
12 billion, but that amount has trebled over the last 5 years.
And you don't perceive that we get any other benefits for that money, though? I mean, it is, you're right, I mean, we're talking about a microeconomy in Coventry, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the huge thing of Europe. But we've already mentioned some of our big businesses, like the London Taxi Company, like Jaguar Land Rover, I'm guessing, want us to be part of the European family in order to get money back to the area.
Whether we're in the EU or not, those companies will continue trading. You know, the EU is just an extra level of bureaucracy, and it's turned into, frankly, a kleptocracy.
All right, let's say that you do that and you achieve what you want to do. You know, how would you devolve that money? We've heard councils as an option, local enterprise partnerships as an option. What are your thoughts?
UKIP representatives can act in the interests of local people rather than being pushed to vote for things that the local people don't want to spend money on. But there is lots of money. I mean, the 70 billion that's going to be wasted on HS2. There's similar amounts being wasted on Quangos. I mean, David Cameron talks about a bonfire of the Quangos.
Okay, listen, we're going to have to leave it there, Avtar. Thanks for that. Avtar Taggar from UKIP.
So now that Nigel didn't get a South Thanet seat, it seems that people are not happy with him. Do you all really want him to no longer be the leader, or is it just something at the top, something else going on behind the scenes?
I've been with UKIP for 6 years now, and there's no doubt in my mind that Nigel has obviously played a huge part in the success of UKIP. He's an MEP, he has no fear of expressing just what he thinks in Europe, and I think he's a great asset for this country, for UKIP, because he simply challenges the assumption that everyone loves the EU. I mean, let's face it, this is the era of the Eurosceptic advance, and Nigel is at the forefront of this advance, and I love it. You have to consider the UKIP membership is a mix of ex-Conservatives, but also disgruntled ex-Labour voters, and they, like me, appreciate us talking and acting on some issues that could be seen as the domain of the left. Just consider, for example, for a few years now, UKIP has been engaging with voters on discussing the NHS and our policy of ensuring medical services remaining free at the point of need, and how we'd ensure we have no further privatisation of the NHS. We're talking about how we'd scrap the cruel under-occupancy charge and ensure precious public funds are perhaps spent more wisely on, say, those in need, rather than the vanity high-speed rail project.
Well, which is all very well, but the thing is, who won the election? It wasn't the left, was it?
Well, I think...
So why choose the losing side to veer towards? It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, what I'm saying is the UKIP membership is... I mean, I've been with it 6 years, as I say, and I'm finding it fascinating. I mean, my own branch, Coventry branch, is actually almost ex-left. If I pop across the border, as it were, to Warwickshire, I see branches that are full of ex-Conservative. And the party attracts both. So the party is trying to do the impossible, almost. Yes. Is achieving this. It's catering for all needs and all interests. For me, actually, it's not about left or right. It's actually doing the right thing. With
that's good. That's good, because I have to leave it there, unfortunately. But, that's great. Thank you so much, Mark Taylor.
More reaction to the interview given by Councillor Anne Lucas, leader of Coventry City Council, on this programme 15 minutes ago, pushing for, supporting... and generally very positive about the idea of a combined West Midlands authority with Coventry joining Birmingham, potentially those in the Black Country and Wolverhampton, as one big West Midlands authority. Mark Taylor, chair of Coventry's UKIP branch, says we too acknowledge that people voted Conservative because of the perceived Scottish threat, a reference to Councillor Lucas's comments there about the general election result. But today, Mark Taylor says, Anne Lucas and co have taken us one step closer to the threat of losing local democracy. More, that's the view from UKIP tonight in Coventry. Your thoughts, please. 81333. Start your text with CW.
We are BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.